So first of all, thank you for taking the time to spend a little bit of time with us today learning about our new professional standards and competencies. So we're thrilled. This is a collaborative effort. You can see MyLeap and Michigan AYC and MiRegistry all listed on this slide. And so we're going to take some turns or take turns sharing information with you today. I think there will be time for questions. This particular informational session is really focused on those of you that are delivering professional development or submitting courses in MiRegistry. And so again, we're going to sort of set the stage for you, and then the registry team is going to talk a little bit more specifically about what to expect. And as I said, I hope we will, or I anticipate we'll have time for questions as well. So I will have Kelsey go to the next slide. How about? So I think I sort of gave you a quick overview of this, but I'm going to provide just a little bit of an introduction. Then Kelsey's going to talk a little bit about the role of Michigan AEYC. Michelle's going to share probably one of my favorite parts, if not my favorite part of this informational session, and that is the overview and support session or support section of this webinar, because a lot of attention and detail and excitement and investment has been put into that part. And we didn't really have that when we launched the core knowledge and competencies in 2013. So we're really, really excited and proud of the work that Michigan AEYC has done at that end. And then the piece that's probably really important to you will be shared by the MiRegistry team around kind of what to expect in this transition, knowing that we have a new body of early childhood standards and we have many, many courses in the system that are actually aligned to those. So as I said, we're excited to be here, and someone is likely monitoring the chat since it's not just me facilitating today. So certainly if you have a question as we're moving along, don't hesitate to put something in the chat. We'll go to the next slide. So I think, again, we've all kind of shared this presentation with a variety of different users. And so you are probably the group that has maybe a little more familiarity with than others might around how the existing core knowledge and core competencies lived in our system. But that body of competencies and what we're talking about today in terms of the Michigan professional standards and competencies are really what we expect educators to know and be able to do in their work supporting children and families from birth through age 8. And so again, your early childhood coursework is aligned to 8 core content areas, and we're moving to 9 with the new body of standards. One of the things that really, set this in motion was the fact that our existing standards, or existing CKCCs, as we often call them, were in need of being updated. And so with the Power to the Profession initiative and Michigan really being invested in our early childhood workforce, the timing and the interest in looking at what those NACCE standards and competencies looked like made really good sense in terms of a starting point. And again, this new body of standards, the Michigan Professional Standards and Competencies for Early Childhood Educators, otherwise known as MiPSC, because what are we without a great acronym, will replace the existing Michigan core knowledge and competencies for the early care and education workforce. And you might not have known this about the Michigan CKCCs, but they were actually designed to support the educators that supported children birth to 5. And we always felt like that wasn't necessarily the best approach after the fact. So one of the exciting pieces about making this move to the new standards is that they really look at that full continuum of early childhood birth to 8. We can go to the next one, Kelsey. So I captured a little bit about this, or a little bit just a moment ago, but we had this body of standards that were introduced in late 2013. I think they were approved by the State Board of Education in 2014. And really many of the things that those standards were aligned to had been updated. Pretty much every alignment document in the existing CKCCs had been updated. So we knew we had to do something, right? And again, lots of excitement around power to the profession and nomenclature, positioning in terms of what an early childhood educator 1, 2, and 3 would need to know and be able to do in their role, and using that early childhood educator professional title piece seemed like something that made really good sense for the state of Michigan. We're hopeful that by aligning to this national body of standards that we'll have stronger educational programs in terms of preparation, either in community-based settings or some alignment to that higher ed setting as well, because we're all working to prepare individuals for their roles interacting and supporting young children and families. And I think we hope that this kind of will produce a common language, again, not only within the state, but nationally, and that overall we'll see a benefit around elevating the profession. So we're, as I said, really excited that we're making this move as a state, and look forward to continuing to tell you more about it.
I think that's my cue.
I think it is.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kelsey Laird, Michigan AUIC. And we were thrilled to be partnering with MyLeap and MiRegistry on this work, and really thinking about this as an adoption of our national standards. And as Robin said, aligning to what NAEYC has identified as the standards of the profession. Michigan, AEYC being the Michigan affiliate of NAEYC, and we are the largest affiliate, so that's exciting. Whoop, whoop. We also are one of the early adopters. So there are only a handful of others that have completed this process of adoption of the NAEYC standards. And I won't say the number out loud because I'll say it incorrectly. So Robin, if you happen to remember the number of states that came before us, is it 3 or 4?
So there are
But
2 within our consortium, but I think there may be 3 overall.
yeah, so we're very, moving forward and hopeful that other states will follow suit so that we do have a more unified profession and we're all working from the same set of standards. So Michigan AEYC's role started early in the stakeholder facilitation group in bringing experts together to identify whether or not we would be adopting the NAEYC standards and what that looked like for Michigan, which Michelle, a little bit later, will share with the actual standards and some much more visually appealing ways than I would be able to describe. But the group decided that we needed 3 additional standards to really address the needs of our early care and early education and care providers here in Michigan. So our role was to provide them the recommendation for adoption. So those are fully adopted in Michigan, and to assist with the training and rollout of the standards across the state. And we really wanted to do that intentionally in a way that providers would have excellent resources and tools to be able to see the standards in practice and see themselves using the standards in practice. So our goal is not to just have this body of work that sits on a shelf, but to really have some interactive and engaging ways that our early care and educators can actually implement these professional standards in their practice. So you'll see some trainings and resources, and that library will continue to grow as the standards are rolled out. We also are continuing to collect feedback. So we want the resources and trainings that are available on these standards through Michigan AUIC to really meet the needs of those that are using them in the field, trainers included. So that would be a space where Michelle will share just briefly in a little bit about how we will be collecting the feedback. But I do want to preface that with saying that we do want continuous feedback These standards are going to be revisited annually, and so the landscape changes across Michigan. Of course, we were at 13 years ago in CKCCs, and we know we're in a very different space now. And so we feel that at this point in time, these standards address the needs of our profession in Michigan, and we'll continue to update those annually with feedback from the field. Again, we want to make sure that we are meeting the needs of the professional development experts here in Michigan. So if you have feedback as we share the standards, we want to hear it, of course, today, but you'll have time to explore our resources and standards on your own. And we want as much feedback as possible to make sure that they're meaningful for you. So now I think this is the really fun part as you get to see them in action. So I'm going to pass it over to my colleague, Michelle, who will give you a tour of these standards.
Hello, I'm Michelle Daniels, and I'm a program manager of training and instructional design for Michigan AEYC. And I'm going to share a little bit about the standards with you today. There's a lot of information. I don't expect you to be able to read everything on the slides or take it all in, but after this presentation, I'll let you know where to go so that you can get as much information as possible. So these are the standards. As everyone mentioned, the first 6 are directly from NAEYC. The last 3 are Michigan specific, and we felt that they were really important to include to kind of elevate these particular topics for the state of Michigan. They are covered very briefly in other standards. However, we thought that they were really important to pull out and really highlight. Next slide, Kelsey. The structure of the MiPSC, as we're calling it, is pretty similar to the CKCCs. You have 9 standards. Within those standards, you have 3 to 5 competencies for each standard. The competencies are the things that you can observe that bring the standard to life. Within each of those competencies, you're going to see 3 skill progression levels. In the MiPSC, they're identified as ECE 1, 2, and 3, or Early Childhood Educator, which is the title that encompasses everyone that works in the field. So next slide, Kelsey. This is kind of a breakdown of the progression levels to let you know an overview of what each one entails. The ECE 1 level is the foundational level. These are your newer educators. They have a basic understanding. They can follow guidance. They're beginning to build awareness of their responsibilities. ECE 2 is the proficient level, and these are your educators who are pretty solid. They have a good understanding of child development. They can independently apply the knowledge. They're able to reflect and adjust and grow. Then we move on to ECE 3, which is the advanced level where most of us will live. These are your leaders in the field, your directors, a lot of coaches and trainers. And this is really those that are leading and mentoring others. They're designing, evaluating, and improving systems. They're advocates. So the 3 progression levels are meant to encompass all of us, not just teachers in the classroom. All right, I think, Kelsey, if you can stop sharing, I'm going to switch over. Now the exciting part. Within the Michigan AEYC Knowledge Center, we have a kind of a microsite which is dedicated to these standards. This is your go-to for everything related to the standards. And again, you're not going to be able to read all of this. It's kind of hard to keep it all on the screen, but I want to give you a quick overview and then you can dig into it deeper on your own. So on the landing page of the standards, you have 8 options, and I'm just going to give you a very brief overview of each option. The very first one is explore the new standards, and this is probably the most important section. When you enter this section, you are going to have a box for each of the 9 standards as well as the full document. When you click on a standard, it is going to bring up, let me blow this up a little bit if I can. It's going to show the standard first, then it's going to have a box for each of the competencies. And like I mentioned, there's 3 to 5 for each standard. When you click on a competency, it will open up the 3 progression or skill progression levels for that competency, and it will identify the different aspects of it. The part I love the best is below this are examples of each of those different levels. And we've tried really hard to include everyone. So for example, this one has an example for a preschool teacher, a family childcare provider, and I believe it's a coach. So there's a variety of positions that are represented here, and we will continue to add to this. So those are the competency pages. Going back to our standards page, I'm going to move below the competency boxes, and there you will see a training for that specific standard. There will be an hour-long training for each of the 9 standards. There's also an hour-long introduction training that is a brief overview. Moving down beyond the standard, you will see a ton of resources specific to this standard that will help educators implement this standard. All of the resources are free. The trainings are free. Accessing the website is free. You do not need to be a member of Michigan AEYC. All of this is completely accessible. The resources that we selected, I tried to stick with first those that are available within our state, resources that are reliable, up to date. So it's not just a collection of a random host of things. It's very intentional on what we included. And I don't want to make you dizzy, but it goes on and on. So this is the standards page for standard 1. Each of the 9 standards has a very similar page. Going back to our main menu, that was explore the standards that I just covered. The next option is the introduction booklet. This is a great introduction to the standards. Just going bigger. It has a page for each of the standards that gives just plain English what the standard is about. It lists the competencies. And then again, it gives a couple of examples of this standard in practice. So this is a great resource to have. That's the introduction booklet. Moving down on our main menu, the next option is what can I expect during this transition? When you click on this one, it will give you a few different options on your role, and it will share with you what you can expect during this transition from the CKCCs to the MiPSC. Back at our main menu, the next option is how can the standards enhance my role? And again, you'll see a variety of different roles. Sorry, it's loading a little slow. So for example, trainers, it gives you a whole variety of ways that you can incorporate the new standards into your work to support and enhance the role that you play. There's a similar page for each of the different groups. And as you can see, it goes to just about every group you could think of, from local and state agencies to investors, community partners, mentors, family and group childcare homes. We tried to make sure that we included everyone. Back at our homepage again, the next option is training. And as I mentioned before, the trainings do live within each of the standard pages, but we also put them here in one training section as well, so that it's easy to access training no matter where you are on the site. The next option from the main menu is MiPSC documents and alignments. Here you will find different versions of the standards. This first one has all of the standards and competencies with the leveling. The next one has the standards and competencies without the leveling, because it makes it a very long document. The next one is just the competencies. And then we also have two comparisons. For standards 4 and 5, they are similar in that 4 talks about how we teach and 5 talks about what we teach. And that can be a little confusing. And so this document breaks it down so that it's very clear which standard contains what content. The same thing applies to standards 6 and 9. Standard 6 is professionalism, and 9 is the well-being of early childhood educators, which is part of professionalism. However, with the high burnout rate in our field, we thought it was really important to elevate that. And so this document breaks down what's in 6 and what's in 9. If you move down, you also have some alignments. You have the CKCCs to the MiPSC, making it easy to do a crosswalk there. Teaching and learning. Teaching and learning was the one CKCC that wasn't a direct match to a new standard. So this document breaks it down where each of the teaching and learning competencies, I guess, went into the new framework. That will be really helpful. The next one is the MiPSC and CDA alignment. There's also a couple more that we're adding. And then moving down, there are some samples of aligned tools and forms so that providers can take a look and see how they can incorporate the new standards into their job descriptions, their onboarding, evaluation tools, observation tools. So all of these are just examples of documents that are aligned to the new standards. So some great resources on this page, and we will continue to add to it. Back at our main menu, the next option is frequently asked questions. There's a whole host of questions there, and we will continue to add to them as questions come in so that there's a lot of answers available right there. And the last option is feedback and support. As Kelsey mentioned, we really want your feedback. These standards are for everyone, and if there's a way that we can make them easier to understand or use, we want to know. So your first option is MiPSC feedback. Clicking here will take you to a form where you can provide any information that you want on how we can make it more clear, understandable. Maybe there's a training need. So please use this form as many times as you need to. We want that information. The next option is MiRegistry support. This will take you directly to MiRegistry and make sure it will take you directly to their contact us page. So you don't have to get out of the system and go to MiRegistry to ask a MiRegistry related question. The next one is technical troubleshooting. This is just a list of common problems that happen that you can fix without having to reach out and wait for someone. And then report a technical problem will give you a form that you can fill out if there's a broken link, if something's not loading correctly, any technical problem, you can submit a ticket there and someone will get right back to you. So that is a very, very quick overview of the site. After this, we will make sure that you have the link to the website. It is live. You feel free to go in, explore it, provide any feedback that you have. Stop sharing. And as Kelsey mentioned, we will continue to add to it. So if you have an idea for a resource or you know something that should be linked, please let me know. I just added the literacy essentials today. So if I'm overlooking something, please let me know if there's a resource that should be there. But that's it. Oh, one last thing. The introduction training will give you a lot more information and it is live on the website now. It's an hour long, but it's broken down into smaller chunks. So if you have just 15 minutes, you can check out one of the parts and let us know if you have any questions.
Michelle, will you show us one more time, if you didn't, how to get to that intro training?
Yes.
I know you showed us or pulled up the place where it said coming soon for the others, but.
So this is our main page. You can, oh no, that's a landing page. You can go to training. And it's this very first one. It says introduction. And it will take you right to the training. You do have to register to do a training. You do not have to be a member. You only need to register so that you can receive MiRegistry credit for the training.
And do we have I don't want to put you on the spot, but an estimate for when we'll start to trickle the others out, the individual standard trainings?
Those should start trickling out probably next week, and they will all be available by November 1st.
Fantastic. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I think I'm turning it over to the MiRegistry team.
Yes. All right. Hi, everybody. Wonderful to be here with you today. It's Emily from MiRegistry, and I get to talk to you about what does this all mean in MiRegistry. And I'm not gonna bury the lead. Virtually, you almost got nothing to do. So with that said, I'm going to get started. We're going to share a little bit of the historical look back of, where we've been and where we're going and kind of our timeline. And then we'll kind of break it down into different audiences and what does it mean for those different audiences. So I just got 2 slides, short and sweet. So starting first with the crosswalk, in June of this year, MiRegistry created a crosswalk between our current core knowledge and competency areas, and how they're going to align to the new Michigan professional standards and competencies. And we also included kind of a third section, which also has the CDA competency alignment in it, kind of all on one, just so everything was all in one place. So that kind of made it easier to understand and kind of digest. So moving on to number 2, using that crosswalk, What we're going to do is there's going to be a back end system realignment of all of the courses in our system. So we're talking expired courses, current courses, any of those training events that are scheduled out, all of those are going to move from where they are now in the CKCCs to the MiPSCs. Um, it'll happen automatically, we like to say. We are projecting a current kind of go live date for fall of this year, so more specifically November. We don't have the exact date yet that we're sharing, but November. Keep that in the back of your mind for when this is going to happen, and that's what we're projecting right now. And then finally, we're moving on to number 4. Once the change is live, what we're going to do is we're going to execute some quality assurance measures to make sure that the courses have been transitioned properly. We're going to do any manual updates to courses that need adjusting, just to make sure that everything's in the standard that fits them best. So we're going to take some time to do that, but there's most of the work is going to primarily be done prior to when that kind of switch is flipped in November. All right. So, like I said, we're going to talk about each of the different kind of audiences here and how this transition will affect them. So first, starting with those program teaching staff. So again, from an individual profile standpoint, there isn't going to be a change in how somebody interacts with their verified training on their profile. Or in any of their available reports once the transition occurs. It's going to just change, and then they're going to see the new standards on all of their reports. Anywhere they would have seen a CKCC, they're going to see a MiPSC. One thing that kind of will be impactful for any program teaching staff that are in the system is really that training calendar, right? So when they're going in to look for training, um, because all those trainings will be transitioned to the MiPSCs, any staff searching for that training, they're going to be met with that new standard. So it's going to be important that they know that there's been a change and that they're going to be looking for the new standard when they're looking for training, if that's how they're searching. Moving now on to trainers and training sponsor organizations. So as mentioned before, if you're in your trainer profile or if you're in your organization profile and you're looking at your courses, all of your course catalog will be automatically transitioned to the new standards. Trainers and TSOs will not need to manually revise or resubmit their courses or anything like that. It's going to be all done for you on the back end. So where this does affect trainers and TSOs is going to be, and again, any of those new courses that you're submitting after the transition will be aligned to the new standards. So those supports that Michelle covered are going to be really, really helpful when you're putting in any of your new courses. And we also have a little smart label that's embedded within the course entry system that will kind of give you those quick little definitions of the new standards. And you can use those as a guide kind of, right then and there if you don't have something handy. So there's going to be supports available kind of throughout the course entry process as well that will be in there for you. So you're not going to be on your own. And then another thing to note, because I don't know if this came up or if we were just kind of anticipating, this transition will not affect any of your existing trainer levels or statuses. That's all remaining untouched. This is just having to do with the standard and competency updates for training and professional development. Okay. Again, I feel like a broken record, but we're really excited that we can say this. So for the program administrators, staff reports, they're going to be updated with the new standards. If anyone was here, I'm just going to say this as a note, not to confuse, but to maybe provide a little bit more clarification. If anybody was in attendance of our very, very, very first presentation of this, we did have a little bit of a different take on what this would look like for program administrators. And at first, there was going to be an archived record that had all of the old standards, the old CKCCs on them, and then a new learning record that was going to populate with the updated standards because we were told at first that we couldn't just switch them. But as the project kind of progressed, our software developers kind of saw the light, which we were very thankful for. And now, we've landed on just one learning record that will be updated. So no change there. There was a little change again from the beginning to where we are now, but it's going to be clean, concise, one record. Everything's going to be updated.
So I'm going to go ahead and close by just saying thank you. Thank you to our partners that are on this call. Thank you collectively to all of you that are developing and delivering high quality content for our workforce. And we look forward to hearing more about your feedback around this. And there are lots of ways to provide it. Take the new training, the intro training. If there are resources, as Michelle said, that you thought, wow, I would love to see that there, would really enhance that standard. It's something I use with folks all of the time. Feel free to include that. You can do that right through the Knowledge website where she had that feedback opportunity. So again, have a great afternoon. Thank you all so much for spending time with us, and just, we appreciate you.